What's poppin', everybody? Back like we never left, and today we're here to talk about black blades. And I thought about writing up this entire long scripted thing about swords, but then I said, you know what, let's just have a regular discussion because I want to just freestyle about the things that we know about the black blades. Now, I haven't really watched any videos on the black blades, but I've seen a lot of people uploading, talking about it. So I figured, why not talk about it as well and give my thoughts on it? Now, I'll say this, full disclaimer. I've never really cared about the swords that much because I feel like it was just like a lot of bits of pieces of information. We haven't seen all the supreme grade, we haven't seen all the great grade swords, so it's just like, let's just wait it out until there's enough information so we can have somewhat of a complete thought. And I think we're almost there where we're getting so much information that now we can have a discussion about things. And now we're talking about the black blade and how to create a black blade. Here's the thing with the black blades and what makes it so interesting. First off, let's talk about Mihawk. Mihawk, as we know, has the finest blade in the world, as he described it, the Yoru, right? And Yoru apparently means night, but the blade, I'm assuming, wasn't always black, whatever. But Mihawk, he has an obsession with black blades. Why I say that is every time, well, in the context of a duel or him being in battle, he mentions his blade being black. If you go back to him fighting Zoro, before he cut Zoro down, he says, I'm going to use this black blade to cut you down. If you go back to him versus Luffy in Marineford, he says, can you escape this black blade? If you go back to Zoro's flashback versus Mihawk, he says, any blade can become a black blade like mine. Now stop, let's talk about that, because that's a bit misleading. Based on what Yukimaru said, I think that's how you say this shit. Based on what he said that Ryuma's blade was forged through his experiences and everything he went through, right? The official translation says forged. That's how he was forged, through his experiences and being with Ryuma. What does that tell you? That the black blade became a black blade over time and being with Ryuma. Now this poses several questions. Is time the only way for you to forge a black blade? Just having time with your sword? But with that, it makes me start to question a bunch of things, because then I start to think about, okay, all the other swordsmen that have spent a lot of time with their blades. But before we get to that, let's get back to Mihawk a little bit with his comment to Zoro saying any blade can become a black blade like mine. I suppose I don't really have an issue with that, because technically he wasn't wrong. And he said weapon. Any weapon can become a black blade like his. Technically he wasn't wrong. But after that he says, no liquor until you've mastered this feat. In the context of this, I suppose he was talking about temporarily and not permanent like his. Because off of that, when I saw that comment, I thought that confirmed, okay, maybe Yoru was originally forged through some special steel, some liquor iron ore or something of that nature. But no, Yoru became a black blade, I'm assuming, through Mihawk's history of battle. Now the thing here that's making it, okay, we can kind of come to some deductions, right? Or some conclusions. Mihawk is now the world's greatest swordsman. At one point, Ryuma was the world's greatest swordsman, and he is considered a sword god, right? The god of the blade. That's what the official translation called it. He's the god of the blade. And for these guys, having the title of the best, they each have a sword that was black, and it was forged black through their experiences. One thing I want to dispel immediately. Let's stop saying that all you need is haki into a blade and it's going to become a black blade. That's severely flawed for several reasons. What I'm going to get into right now is, one, Shusui. We've seen Shusui used against someone to cut someone and they did not die. It was a Logia user, Monet, using Shusui. She was cut, she didn't die, right? So that's not permanent armament haki. That's not what that sword is at all. That sword is a black blade through more than haki. And if it's just haki, that's a bit cheap, no? You don't think that's cheap if you can just put enough haki into a sword? It's a permanent black blade. It takes away from the prestige and the mystique of what a black blade is. And if Mihawk, as obsessed as he is with these black blades, I think it's something special. I think it's a special something you have to attain to get a black blade. Mihawk is extremely proud to say he has a black blade. He mentions it every time he talks to him. You in conversation with Mihawk about chips, he's like, yo, I like Lay's and I like Pringles. You see this black blade though? For Mihawk, it's just an interesting thing. So back to it being forged, right? And going back to how, like, it being not just haki. One, or using Shusui to cut down Monet. Not just haki, she would have died. Secondly, there are other top flight swordsmen, if you want to call them that have named blades, that have named swords, Meitos, that they don't have black blades. You would think someone in Wano, if it's just haki, no, not even someone in Wano, someone top tier that uses a sword, it will be a black blade. Let's go to Shiryu. Go to him. His blade isn't black. Let's go to Vista, who Mihawk acknowledges, yo, you're a world-renowned swordsman. Of course I know of you. Doesn't have a black blade. Let's go to Shanks. Doesn't have a black blade. This black blade thing is special, guys. And I think, of course, it's a lot of steps you have to achieve to unlock this black blade for your blade to be on this next level. So for one, we have to consider the fact that you have to kill your best friend to get a black blade. Just someone like the Mangekyo, you're killing your best friend to get a black blade. And that's somewhat interesting. I'm fucking joking. I don't think that's the case at all. You don't have to kill your best friend to get a black blade. That's some Naruto shit, right? To get a black blade, personally, I think it's a level of achievement that you have to get to, and I think it's a way of life. That's why Mihawk is so obsessed with it, where it's not just being with the blade. I think it's acknowledging the blade as a separate entity, and that this blade has its own will, and you're pouring not only your will, your haki, your experiences into this blade. You have acknowledged that this blade is a companion of yours, and therefore, through not only blood, haki, will, all of that, this has forged the blade to become a black blade. The reason why it's not just blood and it being cursed is Shiryu had said his blade has tasted a lot of blood, still not black. Like I said, I think it's a way of life. It's a way of life that you follow to achieve this level of a black blade. Now, how much stronger is a black blade in comparison to a regular blade? That's anybody's guess. Like, how strong was Yoru before it was a black blade? I would assume it's stronger, but I'm thinking that once it becomes a black blade, it probably matches the will of the user, whereas if the user's will is strong enough, that sword can never break until this user dies, right? The black blade, I think, is tied to the will of the user. So for Mihawk, for him, if Mihawk doesn't die, his sword is not breaking. I think in some way it's like a bond between the swordsman and the sword in which their will has been poured into it. Now they're saying, well, Ryuma doesn't own the sword anymore and the blade is still black. I think Zoro has inherited that will. So for him, because it was kind of just passed down to him, he has inherited the will of Ryuma as far as like his will is still in that blade. And that blade is still forged, it's still black because Ryuma lives on through Zoro in a way. I think we're cheapening like how amazing it is to have a black blade by saying just pouring haki into it. Because if any father just picks up a goddamn black blade, you're telling me they have a full blade imbued with haki and they can cut any Logia down, anyone down with this powerful blade? No, I don't think that's the case. I think it's a certain lifestyle to achieve this. Again, how much stronger are these blades once you forged it? I have no idea whatsoever, but I'm more interested in the process of getting these blades. Like, how does one do it? What are these steps to achieve this? Because Mihawk totally misleading by saying, well, okay, he was correct. Any weapon can become a black blade like his. Technically, you can forge it through your history of battle, as said by Gyukimaru. Again, his second comment saying, yo, you will not have any liquor until you can do this, where it's like, well, Zoro didn't do it, right? He can use haki on his blade now, but that's just one step. That's like the first level. How does he get it to be a permanent black blade? Again, this is obviously going to be fleshed out because it's definitely a thing. And going back to Gyukimaru's comments, matter of fact, let me learn this nigga's name right now. Hold on. So I was correct. His name is Gyukimaru. And based on the things he said, he was basically saying Zoro doesn't deserve the sword because he doesn't understand what it takes to get a black blade. Because Zoro, he said he was even interested in it. And towards the end of the conversation, seems like he was getting it because he was asking the question and kind of tapered off to like a statement or just a thought. Like, do you mean the black blade, but it gets its color from X, right? So Zoro has an idea of how it can become a black blade. Now, I'm thinking it's the will of the user. I think that's the main thing. Of course, haki, blood, just through battle and being with that sword, it attains the level of black blade, becoming a Kokuto, like a Meito, famed blade, Kokuto Black Blade. The only Black Blades we know of currently are Yoru, owned by Mihawk, and Shusui, owned by Zoro. Well, right now, who the hell knows? So yeah, that's about it. I mean, with the Black Blades, there are more ways in which we can talk about it and try to deduce what makes a Black Blade and go into, well, you know, Vista not having a Black Blade, like I said, Shiryu, Shiki having those two swords, and I'm sure he can use armament haki, right? I'm sure he's went through battle with them, right? Okay, let me say this. For Zoro to get a Black Blade, or to achieve that, for say another sword he has, for him to achieve that, I think he has to gain the title. Not only the title, there's a battle. I think it's a significant battle he has to go through. Maybe against the current world's greatest. When will Zoro unlock this? I'm not really sure, but I think it's definitely coming. Even Rayleigh doesn't have a goddamn Black Blade. I know a lot of people said that Rayleigh probably was the world's greatest swordsman at one point. I don't think so. Rayleigh doesn't strike me as one to follow the way of the swordsman that way. I think Rayleigh was a hockey monster, and that's how he went about life. Like Shanks. Shanks is a Yonko at this point, and he's not the world's greatest swordsman, never was. So I think the world's greatest swordsman at one point was someone other than Rayleigh. It'll get revealed to us eventually, but I think that person had a Black Blade. Whoever it was before Mihawk had a Black Blade. I think it's just the way of life, and to get to that level, you have to view swordsmanship that way. And that's why Yukimaru was so upset with Zoro, because you don't appreciate Shusui the way you should. He said, I overestimated you. So for Zoro, I think for him to get to another level, and that's more than likely going to happen in Wano, he has to appreciate what it takes to get to that level. So everything has been revealed to us as has been revealed to Zoro. So I'm excited to go on that journey. I can't wait. So guys, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think. What do you think about a Black Blade? How do you forge a Black Blade? What are the steps to forge a Black Blade? Or your general thoughts on it? Let me know how you feel about this video. Like the video. Make sure you subscribe. Shout out to all my patrons. Thank you for supporting the channel. That means a lot. Again, if you're here for the first time, like, subscribe. Catch you guys later.